Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. And today we've got a slightly different video than you're probably used to seeing. We're kind of going to do a little bit of a public service announcement today. And this is going to really have to do with VA loans. I've got Michael here from Exit Mortgage Consulting, and he's agreed to come in and discuss VA loan benefits with you guys. And I'm going to ask him some questions. We're going to have a bit of a conversation, but he wants to educate you guys on what your benefits are. I know a lot of the folks that watch this channel, you guys are veterans. Some of you are looking to buy a home. Maybe you don't understand the process. Maybe you don't know what your benefits are that you have as a veteran. Maybe you don't know if you qualify or not. So hopefully this video will help to sort of alleviate some of the questions that might be in your mind and educate you guys on your VA loan benefits. So, Michael, thanks for joining us today, man.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, man,
I really
of course.
appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, man.
It's Exit Real Estate Consultant. So getting into VA loan, the first question you're going to ask is, where can I get my VA loan at? What's really surprising is you don't have to go through the VA to get this. You don't have to go through Navy Fed, USAA, or whatever your bank is on Post or wherever you're at. My recommendation is always go with somebody local, somebody in a brick and mortar building, somebody who has a local phone number that you can call directly right away to service your loan or your needs, who's always there for you. So that way you're not going through those prompts, and it's just much easier that way.
So to be able to go in and talk to somebody in person is probably a good thing.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely just the ease of the whole loan process. It'll make everything go so smoother from the time you get pre-approved to the time you close on the house. That 30 to 45 days, it'll smooth everything over so much better. And
one thing I will say is, I do have a VA loan on the house that I live in, and when you're buying a home for the first time, this is kind of outside of the whole VA perspective, but I'll just quickly say it can be a very stressful time, because there's all these kind of emotions that are going into play. And, when you sign that document and you get handed those keys, it's a really interesting feeling. And I know a lot of us, what tends to happen, we'll get to this in a moment, but we go and we look at these houses and then you decide, oh, I'm in love with this one. Oh, it doesn't work out. You don't get it and you're bummed out. And so it's a roller coaster of emotion that you go through when you buy a home. It really is a stressful feeling to be getting into a home for the first time. A lot of anxiety and a lot of anticipation that I think people need to be prepared for when you're buying a home. Not every home you look at is going to follow you home. You're not good. It's not. You may not necessarily wind up getting the home that you fall in love with. So that sometimes you have to accept the reality that that's right. There's always going to be a little bit of that in play. So how does somebody qualify for a VA loan? We'll go over that. Yeah, to qualify, you're going to need a minimum 580 credit score. They're looking for good job history, stable job, your debt to income ratio, making sure you're not thousands of dollars in debt and you can afford to make your payment after the VA. They're looking after they give you the loan. Before you go into your lender, you're going to need your certificate of eligibility, DD 214 or a Form 22, I think, for the National Guard guys. Mm-hmm. So that's about it. And you get those things to your mortgage lender and they'll be able to get you going. That's another one. Always talk to a local mortgage lender. You could call me if you want, but if you're in Tennessee, I'm not really familiar with your market, just to be honest. That's right. So and let's see, there's some other things on your bullet points here. Sure. So it says you've served 90 consecutive days of active service during wartime. You've served 181 days of active service during peacetime. You have more than 6 years of service in the National Guard or Reserves, or you are a spouse of a service member who has died in the line of duty or as a result of a service-related disability. That's right. So that gives you some eligibility bullet points there for you to consider. Yeah, and I think that's one that a lot of people didn't even realize that even spouses were eligible for it, had their partner died in war or something. So I mean, and I think that's good on them to honor that, and two, I know a lot of folks that are watching this channel. If you're this far in the video by now, then you're probably a veteran and you're thinking about buying a home or you're wanting to understand more about the VA loan benefits. But USAA is the same way in terms of a bank. They used to, this is getting off on a separate tangent here, but back in the day, USAA I want to say was only available to officers.
and their families. Like, they were really strict about who could actually do business with USAA. And then they started opening it up to enlisted men. Then they started opening it up to extended families. Then it became more of a heritage thing where, if your grandfather was a veteran, then the son or whoever could, that sort of thing. So they started opening up that eligibility a little bit more. And I believe USA is the same way. If you have a spouse who has passed away in combat or in service-connected death or whatever, they will allow you to utilize their services. So I know USAA is definitely good about that.
That's right.
And USAA has great, I'm not trying to make this like a pitch for USAA, but I'm a USAA member. I've been for over 12 years now, and they have great programs in place. Tons of things that we won't go into in this video, but just know that they're a great group of people and they take really good care of their members.
That's right. Another part of the veteran loan is there's actually a funding fee for each loan. If you're using the loan for the first time, you're going to get a 2.15% funding fee. Basically what that is a funding fee that's rolled off the purchase of the house that will go into your loan. There's no money down, which sounds great, but then again, the more money you put down in your house, the larger your monthly payment is going to be when you borrow money. I'm sure the more you borrow, the more your payment's going to be. So putting down just 5% on your VA loan, it can take your funding fee down to 1.5%. So that would be another recommendation. If you're getting ready to buy, start saving your money for either money down and inspections. When you're going through the process and you figure out the house you want that you think is going to work for you, always have an inspection. That's my number one if you leave here with anything. Even if it's new construction, like even if it's a brand new house, still get it inspected. We've come across things before, even new construction, even sometimes those guys miss stuff.
That's right.
So that would be my caveat there. And you're going to have to pay for these inspections. So that, a typical home inspection, usually do it by square footage. In our area in Lexington, 1,600 square foot house, roughly, you're looking at about $250.
Yeah.
For that inspection.
That's about right.
Yeah.
And I want to add something to that. And this is to help people, obviously, that are looking into not only VA loan, but really any loan, anytime you're buying a home. Home inspections are extremely important. And with the VA loan, home inspections are even more important because there's a lot of really, really random standards. I'm talking, if you get into looking really close into the stuff that the VA requires, like the porch can't be a certain height. If the porch is a certain height, it's got to have like a banister that you can hold on to get in it. There's some really weird stipulations, and there's a ratio of repairs that actually, if there's a certain ratio to the value of the home and repairs that need to be made to the home, they frown upon that. Okay. So I'll give you a little bit of a just very basic background of the house that I moved into. I won't go into a ton of detail, but let's just say that the electrical wasn't exactly up to snuff here, as well as the plumbing wasn't up to snuff. And the person that sold us the house had to fix that stuff before we moved in. They had, this home was built back when they were still using that polybutylene piping, the old gray pipes that go bad. Yeah. And they, I guess just over time, they go bad and they end up springing a leak, and then it can be a major mess. It can be a huge deal. They actually had to fix a lot of that stuff before we even moved in because the VA was like, there's no way that we can make a loan for this if it's going to put burden on the person buying the house. Yeah. So the VA is really big about being, they don't want the purchase of the home to be a financial burden to the veteran that's moving into it. So that's a big part of it. So if there's some really extreme repair that has to be made, I would strongly, and honestly, even outside of the realm of a VA loan, I would strongly recommend anybody, if you have a home inspected and there's something jacked up but you still love the home, then tell the people selling the house, like, look, y'all got to fix this before we even talk anymore. And guess what? Most of the times, if they're motivated and they want to sell it, they'll fix it.
That's right. Yeah, what are you going on that? The term for that for the VA is the minimum property requirements. That's what the VA calls it. There is minimum property requirements. Basically, when you're looking at this home, just have in your head the home needs to be move-in ready. It needs to be turnkey. That's not to say that you can't find issues like what you went through and you asked the seller to repair these.
But he did repair it. He did make it right.
He did. That's right. Sometimes I've seen a lot of real estate deals, and this is where it gets stressful, and this is where you want to have a really good agent who's familiar with the VA process and who is familiar with real estate in general, as far as negotiations and going back and forth and going to bat for you. Because this is where it gets stressful, is whenever you go and put in those repair requests, and the seller, in a today's market now in South Carolina, it's more of a seller's market than a buyer's market. So sellers are more or less likely to repair stuff. So you gotta have. They're
going to want to sell it as is.
That's right.
You just deal with it.
Or they're thinking, there's not much inventory and there's a lot of buyers. If I could, get by with not fixing it for you, somebody else may take it. And so you got to have somebody who's a seasoned agent who knows how to work their way around the repair request is what we call them. Also, keep in mind too, it just struck me. We had a funny incident, man. I had a guy put in an offer on one of the houses that I had listed, and when you're asking for a repair request, me as an agent, I recommend let's take care of the, emergency stuff first, like water line issues that are leaking,
sure,
electrical issues that are leaking. I've had people come in and ask for,
especially if it's a code issue, like if it's not up to code or something.
Right. Yeah. Keep in mind when you're doing this, be kind of realistic. I've had people come in and ask for the tub stopper for the drain, for the garden tub, and I'm like, you could get those at $5 at Walmart. We're sending contracts back and forth for a tub stopper. It just kind of complicates stuff when it doesn't need to, But as far as the minimum requirements, the VA will actually get down to even just chip paint. If the paint's chipping on the floor and the VA appraiser comes in and sees it, they can make you paint. That's
right. And especially if a home inspector comes in and they find mold, forget it. They're gonna, mold is a big no-no, and trust me, ServPro charges a metric ton of money to come in and do mold removal. Believe it or not, it's a little bit more of a process than just simply cleaning. It's a little more than cleaning. I mean, mold is sort of a living thing. Like it's you gotta get that stuff in check. So they frown upon mold. They frown upon electrical issues, especially if there's exposed wires or boxes that aren't wired up to code, which was an issue that we had with our house when we moved into it. And they definitely frown upon the old gray polybutylene piping. See, the issue is that a settlement had been paid out on polybutylene to the people that owned this house before me, and they were supposed to take the money and repair the old piping, and they didn't. So that's where they got them. Is they're like, hey, you've been paid for this. Why didn't you fix it?
Yeah.
So they kind of had an obligation to fix it.
The money and ran.
That's right.
A lot of stuff. A lot of veterans will be surprised too. Sometimes the VA loan may not be best for you, and that's some people are. If you're like you said, still in the video at this point, that's kind of shocking. But this is more for your veterans who are money conscious, have enough money in the bank to put 10, 20% down, have a good credit score. Conventional loan on that point will probably be more better for you because you're going to you're missing that funding fee. You're also missing the private mortgage insurance that you would have with the FHA loan. You have no private mortgage insurance on the VA loan, but you do have that funding fee. So that's the caveat.
Kind of evens out just a little bit there.
Right. Those are kind of.
But there's no money down now.
Right.
In theory, you can not put any money down. And
that's right. Yeah, you can put none down and be good to go and be right in there. But conventional though too is more lenient on condition of houses. So if you're in a market where there's not a whole lot of inventory and some of the inventory doesn't like it's going to pass VA and you can get the credit and the money down, conventional would be the way to go. There's other loan programs. There's a VA reno loan, which is pretty cool. Let's say you go in the house and house looks great. For whatever reason, your wife hates the master bathroom. There's no tub for her to soak and relax in. There's just, it needs updating. You can hire a contractor, has to be a licensed contractor, to go in and update this bathroom. You look $10,000, $15,000 and they'll roll that into your loan. So there's no money out of your pocket right then.
That's awesome. And again, that whole type of situation is to ease the financial burden on the veteran who's buying the home. So it's one of those things where I suppose they look at it like, hey, the home needs updating anyway, so it's improving the property regardless, but making it where you don't have to pay out of pocket, which that was going to be my next question. That's a really nice program. I suppose another question that I would have, I had a question in my mind, and now I done forgot what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Let's see. So no money down. That's one thing we discussed. Interest rates. With VA loans, generally aren't the interest rates supposed to be pretty competitive, like pretty low?
They are competitive, and they're probably pretty low.
compared to conventional, I guess. Since you
Yeah.
mentioned conventional, let's talk about the interest rates between the two.
Yeah, compared to a conventional loan, they're going to be very similar. Your interest rate also depends a lot on your score factors, your FICO, not just your Credit Karma score. Your Credit Karma score is different than your FICO 9 times out of 10. You definitely want to get that FICO. The mortgage lenders usually can pull that for you. They can do a soft pull. I know that's another thing. People, I don't want to go to a mortgage lender because I don't want my credit pulled. I don't want the ding. You know, I may not be ready yet. Well, it's called a soft pull, so it won't really affect your credit that much, if any.
Usually a soft pull will only really hit you for about 30 to 45 days and then it's gone, typically.
Right. And that's where the mortgage lender gets a gauge on what he can lend you and where you're at. You won't see the really hit on your credit until after you close, and then that process starts. But the interest rate has a lot to do with, like I said, your how much your income is, your job history, your credit history.
Yeah, how long you've been at your job, you know, all of those things come into effect.
Yeah.
You know, and without going too far down the rabbit hole, but we will go down the rabbit hole just a tiny amount.
Yeah, we could go down.
Oh, we could go down multiple rabbit holes, but one thing I'll mention about credit is that people tend to, I believe, overlook just how important credit is in our society and in our country, in the United States as a country. Credit is a very important thing. And it's just weird to think that you're assigned this number, right? And this number tells all the people around you how worthy you are of their business. And I know that's a hard thing to fathom and understand, but I'll say this, that China, okay, and this is something that I don't know if it's really out there and people are talking about it a lot, or if maybe you guys have heard of this or not, but China is actually beginning to get into more of what they call a social credit rating. So what they're doing is they're going, all right, it's a totality sort of thing. So they're going to say, all right, do you think this way? Like, are you against the government? Are you this person? Or are you this religion or that religion? Or you know, they're looking at the totality of a person's overall political beliefs, their views, their religious beliefs, and they're assigning people a number based on how worthy you are of having social standing within their society based on a number. So think about it. So credit score, that's just credit. That's only finances. Credit score, like a credit report, doesn't show what church you go to. Doesn't show if you're a gun owner or not. Doesn't show if you're military or ex-military or if you're a civilian. It doesn't show if you've ever been a police. It doesn't show if your family's ever had cancer or not, or how much of a risk you might be to this or that, or your behavior. But just understand that the financial sphere is only one little part of that. And I'm not trying to get the tinfoil hat on, guys. I just think it's important for us to realize that, yes, our system that we have in terms of our credit reporting system can, in some cases, be a little unfair. And some people don't like the system. But it is a system and it does work. It is a valid way of determining someone's worthiness to engage in a certain product or service. And one thing I don't want to take away from Michael's presentation here, but I just want to mention about, and I think it's important for anybody to know, not only people who are doing the VA thing, but just anybody who is in the financial sphere and wants to, watch their credit. It is always important that you check your credit score all the time. It's not a hard pull for you to check your own credit, even if it's a 3-bureau report once a month. I know it costs like $20 to pull a report, but you can see if there's any crap going on. And look, if there is anything on your credit history that you think is unfair or it's wrong or erroneous, you can write the credit bureau and write them a letter and say, this line item right here is incorrect. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, they'll correct it. Yeah. No questions asked.
Yeah.
You just have to be nice about it, and you have to write them a letter and be able to articulate your point, and they'll pull it.
Yeah. Another cool thing I found recently, Discover, credit card, discover.com. Without even being a member of their credit services or not, you can get your free FICO score from them on their website. You can get your FICO for free. I've done it myself.
Well, every citizen gets one score you can pull per year for free.
Right. Yep.
Everybody gets one report a year free. I believe that's like a federal thing, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Guys, I'm not an expert on this. He's the man. If you need to know about this stuff, you need to call Michael. But anyway, that's just something I feel that the whole credit thing really blends into this house loan thing so hard.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking getting into like taxes and debt to income ratio. That's a whole nother kind of bag of apples that we won't open here. But I think it is important for folks that are watching this video to realize where they stand in that VA realm if you're a veteran and you're considering the VA route.
Yeah.
So
and this is I think a really great video too to help veterans for this, because this is going to be probably the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life. You know, it's probably the most money you're ever going to be borrowed or loaned, or and it's pretty big. It should be taken seriously. So you should do all your homework on it to get yourself started, and make sure you get professional people to handle your expenses for you, or your money, your loan, and get all the information you need. Research. That's the best thing. As far as the VA loan, we'll go back kind of just a little bit. You can borrow up to $484,350. That actually just went up this year. So I mean, you can afford a house for that much, and you're thinking, zero money down, I'm gonna go get this $250,000 house. But my recommendation would be, just because you can get the loan, stay within your means, stay within your budget, guys.
Great advice.
If it's going to put you where you're house poor, that's the best way to put it, where you're just pretty much living enough to pay your mortgage and your electric bill, and that's it, it's not worth it. Stay within your means. That'd be another advice that I have. With the VA loan home purchase, you can't buy an investment property, such as you see a house down the road that's, seems like a good deal. You could rent it out, make some residual income. Won't work for VA. You want to go look at a conventional loan for that. You also cannot buy a vacation home. So if you're, in the coast here, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach area, it's not going to work. So look at other options there for you.
The thing about a VA loan is that the intended home has to be your intended place that you're going to live.
That's right.
And while you have a VA loan outstanding, and I was talking to Michael about this earlier, it's the only reason I even know this, is because if you have a VA loan that's outstanding, you can use your VA loan again, the benefit again, once that loan is paid in full. But whatever house you buy, it has to be an intended residence. You have to intend to live there.
That's right.
In most cases. So.
That's right. And then on your second time using the VA loan, your funding fee is going to change a little bit. First time you buy, you're at 2.15%. The second time you buy, after you satisfied the first, you're going to be at a 3.3%. Whenever you get to that, you're using it for the second time, definitely talk with your mortgage lender to see what other options are out there, because you may find something that may be a little bit better, such as a conventional or an FHA or a different program that local lenders could have for you.
Yeah, and there's also a great chance too that, by that point, let's say you've paid off a home and you're wanting to maybe, buy a second home. The VA loan may not even wind up being the best option to use anyway at that point, because your credit's probably going to be great. You're going to have equity in the home that you already own. Mm-hmm. You're going to have the ability to, potentially put that home on the market, sell it, and then use the money to get in something else. So a lot of times you may find that, getting a loan is a measure of convenience. Yes, you do have to pay interest, just like any time you borrow money. And a loan is a measure of convenience, and it's a measure of, let's face it, the bank owns our homes. They're just nice enough to let us live in them. But it is a way for you to get into it. And also I wanted to add, just because you get approved for an amount, like Michael said, don't always think that you have to spend that exact amount. I would strongly recommend that you take all the time that you can. I know it's hard because you're super excited, and the anticipation of owning a home, especially once you're approved, it's like, man, all right, let's go. But take the time to look for those deals, because they are out there. Even in a seller's market, there's some great deals to be had if you just keep your eyes peeled and be really savvy and ask the hard questions. Like, get out there and research, hit the ground, get with your real estate agent, go out there and look at places, and you can find some real diamonds in the rough that, maybe structurally are in great shape. Maybe they just need a little bit of work, but you can dial them in for very little money. Mm-hmm. There's some great deals out there. Don't be afraid to, just because you get that approval rate in your mind in terms of that amount, you get approved for, $250,000. You don't have to spend $250,000. Spend $179, and then try to put 10% down. Then you're really on the path to making a smarter financial choice.
Yeah, you do that, you're starting out ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
For sure. I was just thinking something like you did earlier and totally lost my
Sorry,
train of
it's
thought.
just I get on these tangents, man, where I'm just trying to think of information that's pertinent.
It's
to the
okay. I got
discussion.
it. Even if you're one of those picky people and your market has absolutely nothing, the VA does also have a construction loan. You can purchase a plot of land, and the VA will build your house for you up to $484,350.
Wow, I did not know that. So you can do a construction loan with a VA loan.
That's right. You can build a brand new house with a VA loan.
I did not know that.
Yes, sir.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So that might be one of those things where, let's say that you and your family have saved up a little bit of money or something like that, and let's say that you wind up finding 12 or 15 acres or whatever size piece of land, and you're like, wow, we love this piece of land, we'd love to have a home here. Then you take some of your savings, buy the land. Now I would imagine then it would also increase your credit worthiness a bit, because you're going into the situation with equity, because you're basically going to them, and when you do a construction loan, you're basically saying, all right, I own this $50,000 worth of land or this $60,000 worth of land. So no matter what they do to that property, that land is paid for. So the land becomes sort of a collateral that's rolled into the loan, correct?
Correct.
So if you fail to pay for your house, well, I mean, the land is collateral towards the building of said house and the said loan that's in place. So I would imagine that construction loans for some people might be a nice choice, because you can speculate on the land, find the perfect location, and then simply just have the house built to your specs when you're ready.
That's right. The big thing with the construction loan, though, you really want to find a contractor who is technology savvy. What I mean by that is most contractors are good at building. They're good at, you get them an idea, a blueprint, they go build it. But when it comes to getting with the mortgage lender on the paperwork, that's where they struggle. And that's probably the most stressful part about a construction loan is the contractor is key in that loan, because that contractor has to get everything over to that mortgage lender as they're going. When they clear that land, that bill, whatever, has to go to the mortgage lender. Whenever they start framing, going to the mortgage lender. When they start throwing sheetrock up, plumbing, electrical, everything has to get, the mortgage lender needs to stay on top of everything as it goes, as the money's flowing in and bills are getting paid for it. So you'd really need a good contractor who can stay on top of things for you and stay in touch with your mortgage lender.
Absolutely. And I think also it's very important to stay in communication with your contractor, period, because you want to make sure that everything's being done to your standard. You want to make sure that whatever work is being done, that you agree with the layout and you agree with the choice of materials. I can't tell you how many times, I don't want to get on to any more stories because I don't want to drag this video out. But if you're watching this video, I'm hoping that maybe you're concerned about all this. So this is maybe good information, but I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from Chad working at Home Depot where a contractor came in to buy material and bought subpar material or the incorrect cut rate material for the job. And Chad ended up saying, hey, you can't use drywall screws to build a fence out of, an exterior fence. Or, you can't use drywall screws to attach, something to the floor, or buying like standard white wood instead of pressure treated, and for a situation where pressure treated wood is the standard for a certain job. So make sure your contractor's not skimping on material. Make sure your contractor's not buying like cut rate hardware and fasteners. Like, stay on top of that stuff. Demand receipts. Look at the receipts. Check everything, or specify the things you want, because if you get a contractor that's a little bit dishonest, they will cut corners every chance they can, because every corner they cut, they're making money.
That's right. They're saving money.
So don't assume that they won't do it, because they will.
They will. Another caveat, whether you use a VA loan, conventional loan, South Carolina, we have a Palmetto Heroes program, which is another program that the state has created. It's a state loan. Right now in South Carolina, you're getting $15,000 down in down payment assistance if you're a police officer, EMS, first responder, or veteran.
Outstanding.
That's a huge loan. I don't really know what it is here in Georgia. May have something similar. Not sure. Whether you're getting either one of these loans, whatever these options are, another advice would be, do not make any big purchases from the time you get pre-approved to the time you close. On your credit card or anything. Don't go buy a truck the day before closing.
Right.
That will totally ruin you, and you're not going to have a house. You're going to sleep in your truck, because it's going to totally throw off your debt to income ratio, mess your credit score up, and that amount you got pre-approved for before is probably going to be gone.
That's excellent. Yeah, actually, that is great advice. And honestly, if you take nothing else away from this video, that is a very important thing to take away from the video. A situation very similar to that actually happened to my stepson. And he was going to buy his first home, and he just went with a conventional loan. You know, he's not a veteran, but he just went, you know, the regular old conventional route. And it turned out, you know, like he did the same thing. He went and bought a motorcycle. And not thinking anything of it, it threw his debt to income ratio off, and he wound up having to get rid of the motorcycle. Now, luckily, he's able to work it out, and he walked away even. He didn't lose any money, or, you know, he didn't make money or lose money, but he was able to get out from under that, and they were able to get it worked out. But save yourself the trouble, and while you're, like he said, when you're searching for a home, let that home be the major focus. After you get the home, look, here's a little trick now, okay? All right, so something you can do is after you're approved for the home loan and after you close, go out the next week and buy the truck. If you really, now, you're still responsible for making the dang payment now. Don't think, you know, because you're going to have that increased overhead. You got a home loan you're going to have to make now. Don't get in over your head. But it takes the credit bureau about 3 or 4 weeks to update the credit report.
I thought that's where you were going with this.
So if you buy that home and you go out next week and they run your credit again, they're not going to see that you just bought a house. Now, it's irresponsible, and I'm not telling you to do it. Now, and you know what you can afford. I don't want anybody getting in over their head in terms of what they can afford. But if you go the next week after you close, you can buy that truck. And they won't know.
They won't?
They won't know. It takes about 3 or 4 weeks to update them.
I think I'm
Don't do that.
I'll stay silent.
Don't do it, guys. Don't do it.
I won't say anything on that.
But I'm just saying you can do that. It's a valid strategy.
It is.
And that also applies to anything else you might buy. So let's say that say you've always wanted to buy a boat, but you need a truck to pull it. Well, you could go buy the truck and then a week later go buy the boat, and they won't know you just bought a truck.
That's right.
Just saying, I'm not telling anybody, I don't want anybody getting in over their heads, because we don't want that happening to any of y'all. The last thing we want to do is cause financial burden on anybody. But just to, you know, the system can be manipulated a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely advantages out there for you.
Yeah,
that you can look into.
There is. So look, guys, if any of y'all have questions about VA loans, make sure you contact Michael. I'll put his contact information down in the description box below. If any of you guys have questions, feel free to contact him, and I'm sure he'll be happy to help you guys out. All we really wanted this video to really be is sort of a service to the veteran community, so that folks who are buying a home, maybe you guys can, you know, come away armed with knowledge that you can use to make an informed decision, get the best deal, and most importantly, make sure that you're not creating a financial burden. Remember, guys, the whole point of a VA loan is to ease the financial burden on the person who's getting the loan. So it is a loan that is in place to ease that financial burden. If you don't want to get in over your head, and that's what, in my mind, the VA loan is great for that.
It is, yeah.
Is there anything else we want to put out?
I think that's good for this one with the idea that we had in mind for this video, but this video here was really just the tip of the iceberg for the VA loan process. This is just to kind of get you educated, familiarize yourself with what's out there, what options you have. We could dive in a little deeper. We'd probably be here for another hour-long video, and that would be very dry. But always talk to your local lender. That would be my recommendation. If you want to get in touch with me, tell me where you are. I'll find a good lender for you in your area and get you hooked up for sure.
Yep.
So.
Information's power, guys. And I guess our thing is, I think one of the common mistakes that people make when it comes to buying their first home, whether it's conventional or VA, I think a common mistake that people make is they don't do enough research. They don't take enough time to study the market that they're in, to understand the market that they're in, and they also don't take the time to understand like what their options really are. Yeah. So don't assume just because you're a veteran you have to get a VA loan, because a conventional might be a better option for you to take. So all this video is meant to do is to get the gears turning. Maybe you are looking to buy a home. You know, if you are in that situation, good luck. I hope you have great success with it. It's a wonderful feeling when you sign that document and you're handed a key and that's your home. It's a big responsibility. It's a burden that's taken off your shoulders and on your shoulders at the same time. So you get away from the whole, anxiety of searching for a home. Now you're given that responsibility that you have to make that note, because that's your home, that's your castle. You have to take care of it. So it's a big step in a lot of people's lives, and I think it's very important to take that step seriously. Like Michael said, it's one of the largest purchases that you'll ever make in your entire life, and you may only make that purchase once. Make it count. Make sure you get the best rate. Make sure you get your home inspection. Get a great lender who's willing to work with you on anything, and make sure that you get the best price you can, and all of that. Take the time to do it right, because you might only do it once. Michael, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
All right. If you guys have any questions at all, make sure you contact Michael. He'll hook you up. And, he contacted me on the website forum, offered to come down and discuss these VA loan benefits with you guys. And I thought it was a great gesture on his part. We wanted to have him on the channel. So, guys, thank you for watching today. We really appreciate it. Michael, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions at all, contact him. I really appreciate y'all watching the videos. We hope you enjoyed this video today and learned something. We have many more videos on the way, more gun gripes, more firearms facts, all different kinds of gun reviews, meltdowns. And yes, we do have more meltdowns on the way. We've got quite a few fun ones in line. Thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you next time.